You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast with Sinan Schwarting and Kaan Bayazit.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru atışını kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Roma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Welcome back, everybody. This is your host, Sinan Schwarting, live from New York City, and this is, of course, the Black Eagles podcast, episode 31, where this is no joke. We are no rookies any longer. We've been doing this for a minute. And, of course, today, we have a very special episode in line with said experience. This is our first Derby podcast. As such, of course, we felt this required some flair. You know, we needed to stir it up a little bit, do something special to meet the gravity, the gravitas, even if you will, of this occasion. So we've sort of mixed things up. Kaan is going to have a conversation about the match with a special guest, Emrah Dinçer, friend of Beşiktaş International, and of course the Black Eagles podcast. Hopefully he will return someday. But beyond that, I also procured a nice guest for the show in the name of Aaron Armstrong, someone I think many of you will know from the sort of Beşiktaş Twitter community. He's a vibrant character there, a founding father, if you will, in the Beşiktaş Talk community. So it's a nice chance for us to come together, Beşiktaş International, Beşiktaş Talk, creating content, united, if you will. So it's a special occasion, of course, but yeah, why not, right? We've played Fener in Kadıköy, come away with a point in a 1-1 draw. And so with that said, let me cut right to the chase, without further ado. Let me give you a bit of a match review and then hand the keys of the car right to Kaan Bayazit, as always, my co-host, who is going to be talking with Emrah. But so, first, you can hear New York in the background perhaps, unless there's music drowning it out. But first, let me get into the meat and potatoes, as Kaan likes to say, and talk to you guys about the match. It came out cagey. It was back and forth, very pinball-esque, very even, chances back and forth, nothing too intriguing. I will say Loris Karius stood out as being very solid there for us in the back, as always, contributed very well, and that would be the sort of theme of his really throughout the match. But before I get ahead of myself, let's get to it. The first half remained sort of uneventful in terms of actual timeline events. Not many cards. Most of the players on the pitch seemed somewhat afraid to make that vital error, and as such, we're playing somewhat conservatively, passing the ball around well, efficiently, but not very dangerously, perhaps. And of course, this would change suddenly, on a dime, if you will, when Mr. Ryan Babel, who I've lauded throughout the season thus far as being very realistically our most consistent scorer throughout the season, came through with a screamer of a goal. It should be said he started up front. Our lineup was interesting in that Ryan Babel was our starting striker with Quaresma and Jermaine Lens on the wings, Lens on the left side, interestingly perhaps. Tolgay Arslan, Ozan Özyakup in the middle with Atiba Hutchinson debuting, much to the delight of myself and Kaan, I would imagine. Then, of course, Caner Erkin was in because Adriano remains injured. Vida and Pepe manned the back line with Gökhan Gönül on the right, and of course, our man Loris Karius in the goal. But so yeah, Ryan Babel up front puts that goal away in the 40th minute. A screamer from well out of the goal. Sort of turned around, pivoted, struck. And I don't think many Beşiktaş fans will soon forget that goal, quite frankly. It was beautiful. Historically beautiful. But so that was it for the first half. We went into the half leading 1-0 in Kadıköy, thinking, my gosh, could we get this result finally after all these years in Kadıköy? Is it possible? Well, I'll get to that. And of course, you already know the result. I've already spoiled it, if you will. But in the 56th minute, Elmas, I don't know, whatever. Elmas came in for Mehmet Topal, who had been largely ineffective, as he has been for a few years, if you want my honest opinion. My hot take. In the 59th minute, Diego Reyes, the Mexican Fener defender, was yellow carded for a clumsy tackle. The 62nd minute, Valbuena came in for Atif, and that would signal intent for Fener. Of course, at this point, Fener is pushing and the more dangerous side, as they would be, being down a goal. But to be fair, or to be clear, I think Beşiktaş is bending but not breaking, holding the line. They've played very well to this point. Mathieu Valbuena does represent a change, if you will. He steps in and immediately has a nice effort on goal. Cutting in from the left side, he puts a finesse shot to the sort of upper right of the goal, cutting across, and Karius again comes through with a huge save. That was a notable one for me, to be sure. And it also, again, signaled that perhaps Valbuena was more effective than Atif. He could have played more for them, but that's not what we're here to talk about, because Fener is not our concern. In the 63rd minute, Tolga Arslan got himself a very clumsy and unnecessarily clumsy yellow card. It was a foul, professional foul, and it needed to only be that. It did not need to be yellow card worthy, but he sort of stuck his foot out and, earned the card, I'd say, frankly. In the 64th minute, Ozan then got us another yellow card, or got himself one, anyway. And he did that one. That I should say that yellow was perhaps more necessary. It stopped an actual run forward. It was a dangerous tackle and maybe excessively, but anyway, it was more, I thought, a logical yellow to be earned. But then in the 70th minute, just 6 minutes later, he was taken out. Ozan was taken out for Adem Ljajic, who came in and got his feet wet, his first derby action. And he was there. He was effective, but of course wouldn't ultimately turn the tide in our favor. Additionally, Jermaine Lens came out in that 70th minute for Kyle Larin. Perhaps, were these the right moves? Anyway, these were not. I do not think the moves that were responsible for what almost immediately came next, which was that in the 71st minute, Andre Ayew put it in. Slotted in a nice header, to be fair, from a also very nice cross from Hassan Ali Kaldırım. So they equalize at this point. 71st minute. It's fair, in the same way that our goal perhaps dropped out of nowhere, so did that. Beşiktaş had defended quite well to that point, but it's football. This the football, if you will, in the words of the famous Fatih Terim. But in the 84th minute, yellow card for Ricardo Quaresma, as you would probably expect in a match like this, with an emotional figure such as he is. In the 87th minute, Caner Erkin got himself a yellow card, which at this point suspends him for our next match against Kayserispor. But more to come on that. In the 89th minute, famed Beşiktaş killer Mehmet Ekici steps in for Benzia, who had actually been fairly effective and looked like maybe a decent transfer for Fener after all, but not enough on this day. In the first minute of extra time, Necip comes on for Quaresma, signaling a clear intent from Şenol Güneş. At this stage, but it is the first minute of extra time. And then in the fourth minute of extra time, and I think this is maybe technically after the final whistle has been blown, Caner Erkin earns himself a second yellow card for talking to the ref. I think there was some back and forth. He then made a nice little sarcastic clap to the crowd in the Şükür Saraçoğlu. So well done, Caner. I think he got the most out of his suspension in this case. He got to stick it, knowing that they couldn't get him any worse. Although maybe they'll add to his suspension now. But anyway, in which case, not well done. I'll have to retract that. But so that's where we ended it. 1-1, a draw in Kadıköy. We earn ourselves a point, a single solitary point. And with that said, remain in fourth place in the Super League behind Başakşehir, Galatasaray, and Kasımpaşa. We did, however, gain a point on Galatasaray and remain 2 points behind Başakşehir because they all managed to drop points on the weekend. So it's not a lost weekend, and Fener remains in 13th place with only 7 points, so they're still floundering. So I think the draw helps us more than it does Fener. So we can take that with us to bed, knowing that this was in Kadıköy. We got a point on their pitch. On the flip side, I think we could say that this was a very weakened Fener side that was ripe for the taking. We could have probably gotten those 3 points now more easily than we'll be able to later on in the season, even though we'll be at home. But of course, we'll hope for the best, as always. And this was also despite having Firat Aydınus and Palabıyık in the VAR room above, but Aydınus on the pitch, which Kaan had been quite worried about. So there are positives to be gleaned from the point, and that's all I have to say. We got the point. And of course, one last technical side note. Firstly, I want to apologize for the incoming shift in sound quality and engineering, because of course we sort of separately recorded these two things. Firstly, Kaan's sort of volume equalizing is a bit off. I think his guest is coming in louder than he is. And on mine, I did a live interview with a kind of old voice recorder. So of course the quality is lesser in that regard as well. But so apologies. Of course, everything will be back to normal. For our upcoming episode, Kaan and I will be back co-hosting together for the review, I suppose, of the match against Kayseri coming up this coming Saturday. I'll say a word about that match at the end of the episode. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Everything will return to normal in terms of sound quality, and Kaan and I co-hosting again together. Also, for the delay, this episode came out late. Firstly, we were initially going to include a more detailed look at the deal with the Mainichi group, and we got an expert from Japan. But that has temporarily been rain delayed, if you will, another week. Last minute that happened. Also some further complications on my end. So anyhow, without further ado, let's get into it. Kaan discusses the match with Fener with Emrah Dinçer, and I will also have a discussion with Aaron Armstrong after that one, so stay tuned. And yeah, enjoy.
Today I have a very special guest joining me, and it's Emrah Dinçer. Emrah, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
Emrah, you were a season ticket holder since 1999 until 2013, so 14 years, but now you're living abroad in the Netherlands, I believe.
Yes, in fact there was a year or two in between 1999 and 2013 where I was doing my military service. But except for that time period, I always held a season ticket. It was crazy time. So in the beginning, when I was a university student, it was in Eski Açık, which was the cheapest ticket. Mm-hmm. And then after we moved to Kapalı, which was a lot more cooler. And it was nice times. I really cherish those memories.
And you, of course, also do a lot of the away games in Europe. You were in Kiev. I think you were in Napoli recently, right?
Yes. So when I immigrated to the Netherlands, So going to Europe away games was something like one of my biggest fantasies. I really wanted to do that, like since I was a kid. And when you are living in Turkey, it's difficult. You have to have a visa. You have to have some kind of money. And then when you are working, when you're a student, you don't have the money. And when you are working, you don't have the days off. So to go to a European away game, like some of my friends went, and I was always envious of them and stuff. So the first thing what I did when I immigrated to Netherlands was like to look our schedule, and up until we have this self-imposed European away games ban thingy. Until then I went to most of our away games in the 3 years before that.
And I'm sure when you still lived in Turkey, you probably made the trip across the Bosporus to Kadıköy quite frequently as well. It's crazy. The trip itself, like unrelated to football, the trip itself is nice when you're crossing with a vapor, which is like with the ferries.
With the ferries. It's like some guy sells some tea. You just sit outside. You look at the great scenery, the Bosphorus, the Maiden's Tower, the old city, everything. And then you see the seagulls. You throw some simit, like Turkish bagels, to the seagulls. Yeah. It's an iconic thing. Like if anybody visits Istanbul, they have to do that. And on match days, it's something else entirely. It's like Normandy. It's like the ferry is filled with like to the brim with crazy fans, with fireworks and stuff, and chanting and jumping, and it's like the D-Day, and then everybody just embarks on Kadıköy, starts hitting people and trying to break cars or something, like total chaos. It's not very civilized thing, but it was really
I would just like
something
to say,
really special.
I would just like to say the Black Eagles podcast does not condone that type of behavior.
By the way, I think it's also left in the past. Nowadays it doesn't happen anymore. It was like back when I was
the early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s. Yeah,
and it's just. How do you feel? I'm just going to send out a spoiler here. We're coming off the back end of a 1-1 away draw at Kadıköy. How do you think the fans who went to that game, I think it'll be like 2,000-3,000 people, how do you think they are leaving the stadium? If they're already out of the stadium at this point, they'll probably be forced to stay there for an hour after the match or something. How do you think?
Well, most of the time they keep them even more than 1 hour.
Yeah.
I think it's 50% for security reasons. They want to make perimeter free from Fenerbahçe fans, but it's 50% just to torture because the policemen there are there and not in their warm living rooms of their houses because you are there.
Yeah.
So in a way, like they hold you responsible of their misery. And like I remember, for example, the Galatasaray away game, we lost 2-0. It was crap. The one that Pascal Nouma had the red card. Maybe you remember.
2001?
2001, I guess. 2000 or 2001, yeah. So it was in the old Ali Samiyen Stadium in the center of Mecidiyeköy, and the police made a cordon from there to Gayrettepe, which is like the next neighborhood. It's like a corridor of policemen, or maybe more than half a kilometer long. And then they let us on, single file. And all the way, like this 500 meters, maybe more, they were just beating us with their batons and stuff. It was one of the biggest beatings that I've ever had. So they made us wait inside after the game that we lost miserably.
Yeah.
And then we waited there for like maybe 2-3 extra hours, and then got beaten all the way. So
fun times.
Yeah.
So how do you think the fans that are leaving the stadium right now, the Beşiktaş fans, how are they experiencing it? Do you think they're leaving with a good feeling, or kind of if only we didn't give away our lead? Or do you think they'll be happy leaving the stadium? And
so what I will think is in a vacuum, they're in a bad mood. because like we could have had the game, like just in the second half up until the 65th minute or so. Fenerbahçe just seemed to be like they resigned, like you know, like you also saw the game. They weren't even trying anymore. They were just like finished, and they were just waiting for us to finish the game for them. Make it like 2-3 maybe, I don't know. Like we should have just closed the game, like Zagreb did this Thursday, something like that. But then we conceded a really stupid goal, and also you know how it is with the substitutions, right? I mean, even if the coach does it good, I mean correct or wrong, it doesn't matter. It makes a percentage of the fans unhappy. Like it's always, it shouldn't have been Tolga. It should have been Tolga. No, why Lens? Oh no, why Quaresma? Like because I have another WhatsApp group with some of my friends back from Istanbul, and some of them were inside the stadium, and they were just swearing at the unluck that we have and the decisions. Why does this coach is doing this every like they are going crazy. So this is the vibe that I had from my friends who are in the stadium at the moment.
And I think in a vacuum, like you said it, I think it's a relatively fair result. I don't think either side deserved the win more than the other. Perhaps Beşiktaş. I mean, you're leading the game until 20 minutes from time, so obviously you want to keep that game. But I think if we look at the 90 minutes, would you agree that it's probably a fair result?
It's a fair result. I mean, and also to be objective, Fenerbahçe hit the crossbar once. Hasan Ali, I think in the first half, when it was still 0-0. They had a few nice chances, right? There was this header again when it was 0-0.
That was
the one that Karius, he had good positioning there. So most of the game we looked like we were in control of the game, but also especially in the first half, we conceded not a lot of, but a few positions that could have been problematic if the Fenerbahçe was lucky enough or skillful enough to convert those chances. But on the other hand, we controlled the game well, and it was 1-0 in our favor when it was halftime. And especially after halftime, up until we conceded the goal, as I said before, Fenerbahçe seemed like they just resigned from the game. They were just, they weren't pressing. They were just it was as if they left the game. They were just not there.
Yeah.
And we could have had closed the game there and then. And I think 99% of the unhappiness of our fans are because of that. I mean, we were in an advantageous position, and we could have closed the game. And I think this is like 44 away Fenerbahçe games that we didn't have a win. So it's like last time was the 4-3 game, right?
Yeah, that was 2005,
Yeah. So it's been like a long road. We could have ended it here and now. When Fenerbahçe was in a really vulnerable position, their president is under fire from supporters, even their president that they supported so much a few months ago. Their coach is under very heavy fire from the pundits, from their fans. And I have the habit of visiting some Fenerbahçe forums. Everybody's saying like, the coach has to resign. The coach is like shitting his bed. Everybody's Fenerbahçe is in total chaos, and we had the chance to, let's say, to put the last nails to their coffin. But we missed that chance. So people are unhappy because of this. That's what I think. Because of missed opportunity.
Maybe.
But before the game, actually what I thought, I was okay, not even a draw, but I was even okay with a loss, as long as we didn't experience any kind of trauma like last year. Because last year we didn't lose only 3 points, but also we lost, I think, in the following 4 games, we lost like 10 more points. I'm not 100% sure about the numbers, but we were devastated.
Are you talking about the cup game then?
Yeah.
I don't think we lost 10 points after that, but we had the Galatasaray derby straight after that, which we lost, and I think we could have gotten a result there. We had the chances even in that match, despite the fact of the mental situation that the team was clearly in. But yeah, I fully agree. You know, I went into this match thinking it's just going to be another screw job, like it kind of has been for the last couple of years. I mean, we had the cup game at home with Ali Palabiyuk sending off Duško Tosic and not even batting an eyelash at Robin van Persie, who kicked the living beat out of Tosic before that red card. Then we had that game last year in Kadıköy where they got 2 penalties. The first one was really soft.
And I think last year we had like 2 goals, 2 legitimate goals that were discounted as offsides, and they had an offside goal as well.
Yeah. That wasn't, the 2-1 loss last season in Kadıköy, we had a goal disallowed for offside from Negredo at 1-0. Would have been 1-1. We were really good at that point in the game. We were dominating. Wrongfully disallowed for offside. That could have changed the match completely. Then they got a second penalty after that, and we still scored with a man down, I think, through Babel, but it was too late. And then in the cup game, after the first game finished 2-2 at home, we scored in the first half. Babel scored a goal offside, wasn't offside, got disallowed. That would have put us ahead on aggregate, and that could have really, turned that tie into our favor. And then of course we all know what happened afterwards with the match getting stopped and them assaulting our players with stuff from the stands. Every corner we got, Şenol Güneş of course getting sent to the hospital, stuff like that, and then of course we getting slapped with the 3-0 loss after refusing to continuing the match, but that's not really that important to go in here now. And we had and then they scored of course a clearly offside goal against us in Vodafone Park. Luckily we won that match 3-1, but that was just another example of that. We had 2 clean goals disallowed against them last season in their stadium, and they are allowed to score an offside goal, and it just seems to all come at the same time, and it's all against the same opponent, and you just can't help but feel like, okay, we're not going to be allowed to win a game against these guys. And that's really the mindset I had going into this game. I was solemnly convinced that we were going to get screwed again. I have to say the referee was good today. I think he was fair. There's always going to be positions where you're like, that should have gone our way, but it didn't. But I'm sure Fenerbahçe fans feel the same way about certain positions. But there wasn't any big controversy in this game. I think apart from our potential penalty in the 80th minute, I think this was a very clean match without any controversy whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, and the thing is, even if you don't get red carded, or even if you don't get your coach has a head trauma or something, just being destroyed by the referee, not with a red card, but let's say with a penalty, with an offside goal, whatever, it has a really bad effect on the general morale of the team. Yeah. And
it kind of
that's what I'm trying to say. We didn't have any kind of trauma. There is no, except for this penalty position that could have been in any other game. There is no big controversy in this game. No fight, no nothing. So even if we lost the game without any big trauma, I was okay with that. So all in all, I'm happy with the result. But of course, I'm unhappy. Let's say the rest of the Beşiktaş fans, I'm unhappy at the missed opportunity. And by the way, I just had a look at this game. I remember I was talking about not the away cup game, but away league game, where they were awarded 2 penalties. Man, this game we received 11 yellow cards. 11 yellow cards. And Quaresma, Atiba, and Oğuzhan were sent off because of the second yellow card.
Oğuzhan was sent off after the
But the problem is, after this game, we got a draw with Trabzonspor, then we lost to Gençler Birliği, and then draw to Başakşehir. So it's
it had an effect,
we didn't only lose 3 points. Then afterwards we lost 8 further points last year.
And it was
I count the 7.
It was right in the middle of our Champions League schedule as well. I think we played Benfica right before this game or something like that. Or that was maybe right before the Başakşehir game or something. But we had like a really tough schedule where I just, you're Fener away, Trabzon home, Başakşehir away, and in the meantime you sprinkle Champions League games in that. If you then look at the schedule that Galatasaray got now, I mean, all their derbies are past week 10. I think their first derby is in like week 11, not counting Trabzonspor, whatever. But I mean, if you look at their schedule in the Champions League, and then the teams they play before and after, and you look at ours the last 2 years, then you're just like, come on, they're doing this on purpose. But
yeah, I mean, it can't all be a coincidence, right?
No, it isn't, because the scheduling isn't random. It's predetermined. I mean, they have a commission that decides the scheduling. We've played Fenerbahçe away in week 6 for 2 years in a row now. We always seem to have the first derby of the season. But you know what? I think I agree with you in the sense that as long as it was a fair game, if you're playing a team and they're better, or maybe not better because they weren't better than us today, but let's say they defeated us. Let's say after the 1-1 they score another one out of nowhere.
Or Hasan Ali's shot when it was 0-0 could have just gone in. Yeah.
And then you lose, as long as there's no, if you didn't get, remember that game where we were I think we were losing 2-1 or 1-0, and Higuain scores a goal in the 90th minute, and they disallow it. And it was like a
I remember.
And that was like, there's nothing going on there. They couldn't even in the post-match program, they couldn't even find what the referee decided to disallow the goal for. Supposedly a push fall, but there was nothing there. As long as it's not something like that, I don't mind losing a derby. If they're better than you, or if they just took advantage of their chances and you were better, but we have had those derbies, where we dominated, but we lose. But as long as there's no BS, it's okay. I think you lose sometimes, you win sometimes, you don't. That's football. You have to accept that. As long as the referee isn't the one deciding the matches, you have to accept the result. But as soon as referees start deciding games, it just gets incredibly frustrating, and I'm just happy that I'm not going to have to be pissed for a week now because we got screwed over by a ref, because that's not the case. We got a 1-1 result here, that's fine. We're only 2 points behind Başakşehir, who are in first. We're only 1 point behind Galatasaray, who are in second. We're in terms of the standings, we're doing well. I think we're in third position now, I'm not sure.
You know what? It's a good thing that you are not going to be pissed off for a week.
Yeah.
But what's better is that our players are not going to be pissed off for a week.
Yeah.
They are going to be better focused next game. Yeah. And I think, Fenerbahçe away is like one of the toughest games that you are going to play all season, right? Oh, yeah. I mean, even though Fenerbahçe is in a bad situation at the moment, like Fenerbahçe, Galatasaray, and Başakşehir are our toughest opponents, right? Mm-hmm. So we can say that, like, objectively, this is one of the top 3 toughest games that we are going to play all season. And it's not like we are going to get 34 wins out of 34 games, right? Yeah, so, sure. This is one of the games that you would pencil in as a draw, as a good case, right? So, yeah.
And we need to keep in mind as well that our rivals aren't setting the world on fire right now. We aren't by any means either. We still have a long way to go. But I think this was in terms of confidence, I think it was good for Babel to get a good goal there. I hope that we'll see a little bit more of this. I really liked the Lens Babel dynamic. I didn't think Quaresma played a particularly good game today. I'm one of those people that thinks that it should have been Quaresma coming off, not Lens, because I think Lens was causing them a lot more problems. He was more active, running around more. He was harder for them to defend. He was helping out defense well, all that stuff. But maybe he was tired. But I think it's just a case of Şenol Güneş is more inclined to
that's what I think. Lens is Quaresma is obviously a more skillful player than Lens, but the way Quaresma plays is especially, for example, or let's say in this game, it was much less efficient than Lens, because he isolates himself. In order to find space, he goes further down, like he hugs the line, and he just moves away from. So this causes us to lose cohesiveness. On the other hand, Lens plays closer to the players that are playing in the center, close to the center forward, closer to the attacking midfielders, and this way he provides better passing options and stuff. So Lens was actually the better player on the field today. I say hands down. But I think that Şenol Güneş also saw this. In my opinion, the reason he kept Quaresma in is in NBA, in basketball, they say some certain players have gravity.
Yeah.
So even though Quaresma was worse on the pitch, he still had bigger gravity than Lens. So what I mean is the defenders were trying to they were giving more attention to Quaresma.
Yeah.
And Quaresma, just by being there, was holding up some defenders busy. I think that might be why Şenol Güneş kept him inside. But to be honest, if I was the coach, I would have taken Quaresma out instead of Lens.
Yeah.
And I would probably take out Tolga instead of Oğuzhan. I mean, Tolga wasn't bad, but he wasn't good either. And they both got yellow carded similar moments.
Yeah.
And I think Oğuzhan is the player with better football IQ than the rest of the team.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe except
Or
Ljajic,
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, but so it's always good to keep the players with the brains on the field, especially in a game like this. He could have just maybe held the ball better, and we wouldn't have gave the possession to Fenerbahçe. We wouldn't have conceded the goal. And speaking of individual player performances, I think Caner was really bad today. He lost a lot of balls.
Yeah.
He did some meaningless stuff, and
He's never been in this game.
and also at the goal that we conceded, I think he's the primary person the first player to blame. He didn't even jump. Maybe the player that you are trying to get the ball from. I mean, maybe he's not as tall or he can't jump as far. But even if he just jumped, it would have made Ayev, off balance or something. So he wouldn't have, headed the ball so well. So
it was a really good leap and header, though. I mean, it kind of came out of I think both our goals kind of came out of nowhere. Our goal in the first half and then their goal kind of came out of nowhere. It was a good cross, but I just kind of that goal kind of feels like the last two goals we conceded. The Bursa away goal. It just feels like the defense is caught out sleeping for a moment, a rare moment, I think, in this game. I don't think there were too many of those, but this was just another one of those. Too little pressure on the man in possession. Hassan Ali has too much time to pick out his cross, and there's plenty of bodies in the box, but they're all watching Slimani, and Ayew comes in and gets.
This is also again Quaresma's fault a little bit as well, because Hassan Ali is their left back.
Yeah.
And he's crossing like he's in taking a stroll in Fondul Park. He's just enjoying himself. Nobody's pressing on him. The person behind Quaresma, our right back, is Gökhan Gönül. I think he played well, but he's 35 years old or something, and he's playing as a right back, and also he's trying to cover all the defensive mistakes that Quaresma is making. So it's a superhuman thing for him if he covered their attacking left winger and also the left back Hassan Ali.
Yeah, that's why I think.
Yeah, Quaresma should have pressed better on Hassan Ali at this position. At the our.
That's why I think Lens would have probably done better there. He may have not. I'm not saying he would have won the ball, but he would have closed them down quicker. He would have probably put some pressure on Hassan Ali that he wouldn't have gotten the time he got now to put in that cross. So I think that's a sub immediately. Not paying off in a sense. So for me, I think we could have definitely gotten a better result here, but all in all, I'm just a little bit disappointed that like the Bursa away game where we had it in our hands, and now this away game where we had it in our hands. I think those types of games you need to either put Lens on. In Bursa he was on the bench, or leave him on, because he's the best option when you're going to get more space, when you're going to get counter opportunities. Quaresma just doesn't have that speed anymore that he had 4 or 5 years ago when he was a younger player. Lens still very much has that speed and that ability to hit teams on the counter. I think he's the type of player that in these types of games he should either be coming on in the 55th, 60th minute, or he
he has good help defense.
Yeah, I mean, he's more
In
energetic.
addition to his speed for breaks, he also has good help defense.
Yeah, completely agree. So I think we're both in agreement here that it's all in all, it's not a bad result. We could have gotten 2 more points, but when we're looking at the table, we're only 2 points off number 1. We've had two difficult away games now with Bursa, who's traditionally a difficult game for us, and now Fenerbahce, which is arguably the toughest away game, I guess, together with probably Galatasaray. And more importantly, our arguably biggest rival, Galatasaray, are in the Champions League. Their last 2 away games, they've lost heavily. 4-0 at Trabzon, now 3-0 at Akhisar. They're not looking as impressive as they looked last season. So would you think that Galatasaray is going to be the biggest contender, the team to beat? Or do you think that, given that they're not in Europe, Başakşehir might be coming out of left field a little bit?
I think Başakşehir is going to be better this year than last year because their schedule is less. I mean, last year they were also playing in Europa League, but to be honest, they didn't give a crap about their games. They were just playing some of their Europe games with their second team and stuff. So they were focused on the league, but now they're even better focused on the league. They don't even have to play their second team in Europe. They're just eliminated out of it. And in the contrary, Galatasaray, they won the championship last year with a very narrow squad. They had a good starting 11. Maybe with the small holes in it, but not much. But except for their starting 11, they don't even have a good team should have at least 14 good players. 11 outfield players, and then when you are substituting somebody, you have to be able to put somebody good inside. And at the moment, they lack that.
Yeah.
I mean, now they lost Gomez. They are playing Eren. He's scoring some goals, but he's no Gomez. And who's the backup of Eren? Like Onyekuru, who is not a real striker, maybe. Now they have bigger holes in their squads. Plus, they have to play Champions League. So it's going to take its toll on them. Even if the federation helps them with scheduling, even if they had some help from referees on stuff. Because last year they also remember the Alanya game where Muslera should have been red carded and stuff. Even if with that kind of help, it's really difficult to play Champions League and try to contend in the league as well. We lost. Everybody's saying we sold Cenk Tosun to Everton and that's why we lost the championship. And I think it's not a fair statement to make because in the first half of the season, where Cenk was with the squad, we got 30 points, and in the second half we got more than 40 points.
Yeah, we got 41 or something.
Yeah, 41 or something.
We had the most of any team.
It's not because Cenk was crap and Negredo was better or something like that, but it's solely because in the first half of the league we also played 6 Champions League games, and that really took its toll on us.
Yeah.
Both physically and also mentally, because players have to concentrate.
Mainly
so I think it's really tough to make the players concentrate on, let's say, away Rizespor game or I don't know whatever, right? When you're playing in a corner of Anatolia somewhere.
Yeah.
When 3 days later they are going to play a Champions League game with this famous music and stuff, where they can show themselves and make good transfers and something. It's really not going to work for Galatasaray.
We saw a lot less.
Yeah, this year Başakşehir they didn't lose anybody of importance as far as I remember in the transfer window.
No.
They didn't also gain somebody of importance as well. So it's more or less a wash. Their main hole in their squad is Emre Belözoğlu is now 1 further year older. He's now 37 or something, 36 at least.
38. He's from
38.
Yeah.
And even when he was 20 something, he wasn't known for his stamina. He would always at 60 or 70 minute mark he would be over. And now he is closer to 40 than 35. So, and they don't have that kind of number 8 in their squad. I mean, it's I don't like Emre Belözoğlu as a person, but as a number 8, he's a really special talent.
Yes.
And number 8 is probably the most important position in modern football. And they have İrfan Can Kahveci, whom I was really very hopeful about when he was like 18, 19, when he was like first in Gençler Birliği. I think he came from Oftaş.
Yeah.
He was really good, but he's never going to be as good as Emre. And I mean, who they have, like Gökhan İnler is no Emre Belözoğlu. No, I mean, nobody's going to compare
There's
to
a
his
reason we let
performance.
him go for free, because he just didn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think he's still a decent player, but not good enough for.
And he's exactly. He's not going to be like the maestro of the team, the number 8 who is going to be the brains of the team on the field. It's not going to happen with Gökhan İnler as well. So they have a hole in their squad in that position, I guess. If they can't do anything about it, I mean, or if the opponents find a way to exploit this, because it's like this in Turkish league. For example, a team can go very well with an obvious hole in their squad until some coach deciphers the code and gives them a good beating. And then other coaches also see, I think this works, and they do the same. So that's what they are doing to us. We are playing a 4-2-3-1, and like in the last 2 years, whichever team is pressing, trying to prevent us from making plays in the defense, and plays, let's say, play 2-1 on Atiba or whoever is playing there. Then our tactic, let's say, at least half of our tactic just dissolves. So
we saw it especially against Başakşehir. Basically every game against Başakşehir that Şenol Güneş just didn't have an answer for that pressing, and every game it was the same scenario, the exact same thing, and every time he just kept stubbornly going with his own tactic. And I think the problem was with Şenol is that he in the Turkish league he doesn't like to adjust to his opponent, and in Europe in the Champions League he did do that, and we got great results with that. I don't think you should completely adjust to an opponent. You have to keep going out from your own strength, but you do have to accommodate them to a certain extent, especially when you're playing a good opponent like Başakşehir, Galatasaray, Fenerbahçe,
But I think he might have this point. Let's say we have this Achilles heel, right? When they employ this tactic against us, we are in a vulnerable position. Mm-hmm. But not all teams are strong enough to use this against us. So let's say when we are playing against, I don't know, like a lesser side, even if they try to do that, then they are going to give
space.
Yeah, give a lot of space back. So maybe Şenol Güneş just makes a trade here and says, okay, like top 2-3 teams, if they employ this tactic, they're just going to screw us over. But then to the rest of the league, we'll just win, and we'll have enough points to become champions in the end. So last year it didn't work, but it didn't work because I think we should have had better rotation of players before and after Champions League games.
Goals.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, after a coach solves the code of Başakşehir, let's say, because they're playing Emre Belözoğlu, who is, as you said, 38 years old. And it's their the critic player. So I just checked. They bought a player named Miloš Jojić from Köln. I don't really know him. I think he's a Serbian player. He's not. He doesn't seem to be at the same level as Emre. They have Soner Aydoğdu from Akhisar, who is also not
not that level.
Yeah, not that guy. They have Gökhan İnler that we just left him for free because he didn't have it in him anymore. And then they have Mahmut Tekdemir, who is like a very, very defensive number 6. Yeah. So I think when somebody deciphers their weakness in the midfield and successfully exploits that, after teams are going to follow. It's no coincidence that Galatasaray lost games in a row.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the thing with Başakşehir for me is 2 years ago, I think when it was us and them, 2016-17, I guess, I felt like they looked very fresh and they were every game they looked like they were gonna win for sure. I don't think they've looked like that last season and this season. They're still consistent enough, but not. They don't. Visca doesn't look as fresh as he did 2 years ago. Adebayor doesn't have the same impact anymore, despite that he's still good. But anyway, let's wrap things up here, Emrah, for this part, because I think Sinan will still have another part to stick on to this with him and Aaron, so we don't want to run too long. I would really like to thank you for joining me on the podcast today, following our 1-1 draw with Fenerbahçe. Is there anything you would like to plug, Emrah? I know you're not on Twitter anymore. Is there anything else that you would like to plug that you want people to take a look at? Maybe a column or I don't know, some social media, something like that, Instagram perhaps.
Well, I'm completely out of social media, so yeah, this is a good opportunity to plug something, but I don't have much to plug. I guess many of the people who are following this are not going to be fluent in Turkish, but if they were, then they could check Ekşi Beşiktaş as well. There has been good discussions over games, but everything is in Turkish, so I don't know if it's it's correct thing to plug here.
It's the only other Beşiktaş podcast out there to point out, and they're a Turkish podcast, of course, and you can find them on iTunes and I think on Google Play and everything, and it's Ekşi Beşiktaş, right?
Yeah, it's Ekşi Beşiktaş, exactly.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Emrah, once again, and I hope to have you on again soon.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to meet you.
Okay, well, anyway, for me, Kaan Bayazit, and for Emrah Dinçer, this is good night, and I will see what Sinan and Aaron talk about in the following segment or something. So, good night, everyone. Or
bye. Good night. Thanks for having me, Kaan.
Exactly, whenever you're listening to it.
Okay, well, thank you to Emrah Dinçer, and thank you to Kaan for having him come in and do the show last minute. And yeah, without much dilly-dally, I'll move it on to my conversation that I had with Aaron Armstrong.
All right, so big day today. We've got a special guest here. In advance, I should apologize for the sound quality. We're recording on the fly here, so we're live from New York, and I've got a special guest with me, sitting with me, literally, physically, Mr. Aaron Armstrong of Beşiktaş Twitter. I'll cue in the applause track as I do. Big time Beşiktaş Twitter personality with us here.
Nah, not really.
Special guest. But yeah, it's a big day. We're coming up a big derby.
Yeah, thank you, by the way. It's a pleasure to be here and do this with you.
Of course. Now, I was going to say it was a big derby win, but that's not accurate because it wasn't a win and it wasn't a loss. It was a draw. But so before I get off track here, quickly, Aaron, what are your initial thoughts?
It's really hard to. I can't find the proper word to say because, when you look at it on paper, today, Beşiktaş could have won the game. All the fans were driven, and Fenerbahçe, of course, is one of the biggest teams in Turkey. But when you look at them, they looked fragile, as one team could be. They were coming in from a game like a disastrous European night, getting battered 4-1, and Beşiktaş was this time. I can't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at least for 15 years or so, Black Eagles can't win at Kadıköy, basically, at Fenerbahçe's on ground. And
right.
This year, it seemed like they would finally...
we had it in the bag, right?
They would finally break that streak and get a win there. So it was disappointing overall. And both teams, I'm pretty sure that this also goes for Fenerbahçe fans. They're quite proper disappointed because they could have won. Both teams could have won, and here we are with a score that doesn't satisfy
anybody.
Side, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a very accurate summary. The 1-1 draw, the nature of it, I suppose. Babel giving us the lead on something of a wonder strike. Really, it was certainly the goal of the year.
Incredible, yeah.
If not, the last 5 years, it was really a special goal.
Scoring that goal in a derby is even more special. It's just not a regular game. You're scoring that goal in front of 45,000 people.
Yeah, and he's continued to stand up throughout the season. He's been consistently scoring for us. Now, I would say, besides maybe Pepe, he's probably our most consistent scorer, as far as scoring in more than one game, right? Because Pepe has scored a couple goals in a couple games, whereas...
He scored against Malatya, for Babel.
Yeah.
For Babel, he scored against Malatya, he scored against Salzburg this Thursday, and he scored again, and we gotta admit something. Beşiktaş forward line, their attackers doesn't look good this year, especially after Talisca left.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big
So
lack.
Babel is kind of taking that responsibility now, trying to be the pinnacle of the strike force and taking responsibility in a positive way, scoring goals. It's 3 in a row, 3 goals in the last 3 games.
Yeah.
And during this game, as you said, it's like a total screamer out of nowhere. It's literally a talent goal. It's not like a teamwork goal or anything. It's literally a personal effort to score that goal. So I'm kind of a bit sad about him because
that should have gotten it, right?
Yeah, exactly. He did that
and we played well enough in midfield and in defense. Not particularly well, but well enough, I thought, to maybe hold out for that 1-0 win at least.
True. I agree. To be honest, if you compare it to our regular self or our potential, that was disappointing, you have to admit. If you ask me, besides Karius and possibly Babel, everyone was
mediocre.
Kinda, maybe Atiba too.
Atiba was pretty good.
Too.
Atiba was
not
tough.
the rest, to be honest, but Atiba was, after he hasn't been playing since April, by the way.
Yeah.
So stepping in a derby like this without even playing for,
and maybe
was a really good.
Pepe and Vida did okay in the back. You can't really say they.
Yeah, you're right. The goal came off from Janner's mistake, so
the fullbacks and Gökhan Gönül was spotty also throughout the match. Bad crossing.
He actually tried his best. You can tell, he was always doing the overlapping runs and all that. But sometimes from that flank, actually, we conceded anyway. We were giving away some chances, we weren't defending properly because maybe he was out of position. Tad bit,
Exactly. Yeah, no. But you're right. I think all around it was not an inspiring day from anyone individually besides those you mentioned.
You were saying... Sorry, please continue.
No, you go ahead.
You were saying, we weren't that good. I'm trying to say what you're saying back here again. We were not good. I mean, we kind of, as you said, we seemed like we would hold on to that 1-0 lead.
Yeah, we were doing well enough.
Yeah. We weren't that good, but just enough to get it through. And personally, I have to if you ask my opinion, this is what I think. After Lenz and Öztürk got subbed off, because they were forming those triangles, the rondos in every side of the pitch, and that's how we hold on to a lead, by retaining possession.
Yeah.
And after they got subbed off, it kind of became our the regular disappointing Beşiktaş that we've been seeing this season.
Kind of kept out.
Yeah, always trying long balls, without a tactic, just panicking all the
Headless
time.
chickens.
Yeah, like that, without a plan, without a mission, just doing whatever they can, like a panic football. We would switch to that from that, and slightly after they were subbed off, we literally conceded. So
Yeah, no, and I think. So what you might be saying, and I think this is probably a good segue, let's just move things along, but if we're looking at individual performances and our highlights and our lowlights, and I'll give you the mic, and then I'll think of secondary ones if I can, but it seems like you might be suggesting that a lowlight was Şenol Güneş and his substitutions or his maybe reactions to what was happening.
Yeah. He clearly had something in his mind, and it was he might have been right to a degree, because like when you think about it, yeah, Laic was playing real good, but he just came in, and this is a hostile environment.
Yeah.
And
And here you're talking about now not playing Ljajic in the starting rotation.
Yeah, you might like criticize him for that, but like he had some points, so I'm just gonna say, okay, for now, let's see how it goes. Like maybe you thought to yourself, like let's start off a bit more cautious, and then we can take risks as the game progresses, or like adopt a more attacking mentality, you know?
Sure.
So he didn't start him. He was going with the typical run there in the beginning of the season with Atiba, like last season actually. Atiba, Ozan and Tolgay. So these three guys actually were better than I expected, because I thought they would be way worse. They weren't that good still, but like they were better than my expectations. And after a while, like after we scored the goal, we started to take full control of the game, because like Fenerbahçe, like we were panicking in the first 15 minutes of the game, but after a while we started to get more.
We settled in.
Yeah, more like dialed in, more concentrated, and more calm. And like after we scored the goal, we looked like, oh shit, we were actually doing this. You know, we really looked like we could win. And I believe that like he should have pulled the dagger and just like put it in their chest by like maybe subbing off Tolgay or Quaresma at the halftime, and like getting Ljajic in, because like he's a creator, he can find space. Like when you think about it, he can find space even in the bed with Gemma Collins and stuff like that.
And so what he
versatile, you know?
What he did do was he put Ljajic in for Lens, I guess, right? Because then he put Larin in.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Larin in for Lens.
Yeah, exactly. Özyakup.
And Ljajic was in for Özyakup. Yeah, exactly. So rather than taking off Tolgay, he took off Özyakup, who's I think more.
He's more physical defensively, so that's why.
But I think that in fact Ozan was far more involved in the match today.
Yeah, true.
So that might be why he probably should have probably kept him in and maybe taken off old Tolgay,
Ozan
like you were saying.
Playing simple, and like he was helping the team make those like passings, those 1-2s and stuff.
He wasn't like both of them were sort of ghosting, but I think I made the joke, and I said this in the previous episode of our podcast, but he was kind of a good ghost in that he wasn't so present, but when he was called on, he made the right pass, the right touch. You know, he wasn't doing anything that made you think, oh my God, Ozan like is responsible for what's happening. You know, like he didn't do anything wrong. Where he didn't do anything stand out that was like, oh, he won us this match. I
completely agree, that's true.
But so, whereas Tolgay made a lot of errant touches, kind of boneheaded plays that he's like the yellow card was very unnecessary.
No, actually, like he had to do it there, that yellow card, because like the attack was like, if I recall correctly, 3 against 2 or something like that.
No, that was the.
Oh, that was
the play with.
Well, Kari saved. No,
right, and that was Ozan's yellow. Ozan's was good, was required, I think, right? But
anyways,
Tolgay's seemed unnecessary. Like he could have just had a regular foul. He didn't remember, because then he kind of kicked his leg out and like made it too clear.
It's fine. I mean, like sometimes midfielders have to get those yellow cards to like prevent, like stop the threatening attacks from happening. But still, if you were like asking my opinion about who's the worst and who's better, or like Şenol Güneş was doing.
Back to Şenol, So then there were the subs too, right?
I believe Quaresma should have been subbed off. Really, if you ask for my personal opinion,
instead of Lens.
Exactly.
Okay.
But like even at the halftime, as I was saying, like with Ljajic maybe, because I mean, like he's a really talented player. He can do wonders sometimes, but today he just looked off, because our team was trying to play in a different mindset, and he was like dwelling on the ball for too long, and then try to cross it and finds a player who's offside even. So
he wasn't even getting up and cross it. Like he was just lost.
It wasn't that good.
Yeah,
to be honest. So instead of subbing Lens, who's actually contributing to that passing.
He showed intent,
like
right?
he was like moving. He was compact. He was like active around pitch, roaming and stuff. So like Quaresma, I think he should have been off instead of Lens.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And then I think subbing in Ljajic for Quaresma allows you to put Ljajic on the left wing and then put Lenz back on the right wing, which is where he should have been, right?
where he
You've been
plays,
saying throughout the match that Lenz should have been on the right side the entire
because,
time anyway, right? Because he doesn't have the left foot that Quaresma does, or Babel.
Exactly.
You know, he doesn't have the ability to bring it in maybe that Babel does from the left side. So a few tactical errors from Şenol Güneş. And it's not the first time that he's been called out on this podcast. And I don't think, I'm personally not ready to axe anyone, and certainly not mid-season. I think one has to always be cautious in making big moves, and I think in the Turkish league, it's so easy and so common even to see coaches sacrificed first, without one has to recognize that we do have a coach who's not working with he's got a puzzle that's lacking a piece, which is a striker, right? Like, we don't have a
That's the point, but I really don't believe today's, what we saw today was related
That's
to the
fair.
lack of striker, I don't think, because
We could have won without
actually
it.
that tactic of playing Babel up front seemed to have worked.
Yeah.
It wasn't
active.
bad, and
He came back.
at some points they even rotated, which is
Yeah.
a good thing, I believe, for the front three if they can rotate.
With he and Lenz gives him that versatility where they can rotate between themselves
True.
and kind of go
And
back
then,
between back and forth.
Still, but you're right. If you're going to talk about
The big picture.
the big picture, Güneş does lack a striker because Lauren, last year, personally, I was believing that,
We've got something, right?
yeah, we got something, exactly, because, he scored a hat-trick even, just coming in, after a month, taking a short period of adaptation, shall we say, and then just, bang, scoring a hat-trick in his first game, basically, the game started.
Yeah.
And then, this season, he's just ghosting. Next
Really
time.
has been, yeah. No, and today I think he received a cross that may have been a little ahead of him, but that there's a tendency of his to be a couple seconds behind crosses now. One doesn't even know if you can really blame the cross.
A good striker should be able to sense it before it actually happens.
And we've seen so
should have
many.
instinct. He kind of lacks that.
Yeah, and we've
Trust me.
seen so many of those ones where he's 2 seconds behind the cross, where what it does is, normally you'd say, oh, that cross was probably a little bit ahead or behind or whatever it may have been. But in the case of Larin, now you're starting to wonder, because it's such a common thing where he's ahead or behind. That is his time. Is he having issues with his timing? Is he not able to connect with those long balls? It looks like that a little.
Larin's strong size, if you ask me. He's really physical. He can. It's hard to knock him down. So even in aerial duels, he beats his opponent. But when he first arrived, his fundamental looked good as well. The basic stuff.
Absolutely.
But now I believe that as we've been talking about, he lacks those instincts, so it affects his timing. And he's not a great finisher, to be honest.
Yeah, he's not showing it for sure.
Yeah,
And confidence can do wonders, and it's one of those things where I said this in the last episode of our podcast, where I think if he could string together a few decent performances, he could build on that, maybe, but he's not showing the ability to even get that going.
It's
He's not
still a chance
initiating.
for him. It's still he has been getting a lot of chances still, but he should capitalize on it because you're playing European football at this young age. Because if you look at the options that we have, Larin is, you gotta admit that he is our best chance right now because, when compared to Pektemek and Wagner Low.
Yeah, and it's his best chance, really.
Exactly.
The opportunity was, he kind of lucked upon this opportunity in some ways, with Negredo leaving suddenly and Cenk Tosun getting sold previously and Wagner Love not settling at all, despite whatever happened at Alanya. But anyway. But so it sounds like your low light would go to Şenol Güneş, and we've mentioned Larin in that sort of light as well, and I think they both deserve it. If I'm going to sort of single someone out, I might, and I don't think we've yet done this on the podcast, and I think he's maybe kind of earned it in a couple of matches. I think Quaresma needs to be highlighted today as being a low light. Highlighted as a low light. And he's been lacking it. He's been lacking it, and today, I mean, God, it's hard to say this because, like, typically we cross the ball way too much when he's on the pitch. But today he wasn't even getting involved enough to put that many crosses in, which is like, we've come to a point with Quaresma, because I think he's lost a bit of his pace, where the one sort of saving grace of his is that he's going to put in 20 to 25 crosses and maybe connect on one or two of them and give an assist, which is not sound tactically, but, it's something. It's something that you can kind of bank on. But if he's not even able to provide that for you, that's troubling. That's troubling.
He had some chances, like, if you remember that thing, I think it was in the first half where it was on the left flank. He cut in and, like, tried to finesse the ball. And, like, Bubble was making a run there. If he passed it to Babel, it was a sitter for it. It would have been a goal, simply. Maybe he could have passed there. And in the second half as well, we did some stuff where possibly it would have been better if he had passed the ball.
Yeah.
So
very much, yeah. And
like the team overall was bad. Like, I can't just say, we lost because
there was a general lack of instinct.
Yeah.
For sure.
Everyone was disappointing. As like, if we have to talk about Fenerbahçe, like there's like two sides to the story. So
yeah. They played way better than they have thus far in the season.
Yeah, and like...
What you expect in a derby?
Yeah.
I guess.
And no, still, like, they were really bad. Like, better than they, like... And then the last game against Zagreb, but they were bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, like... If you look at it, like, at some derbies that we've played with them in the past, like... I remember some that we, like, Beşiktaş looked... so like careless, like they had no choice but to lose because like Fenerbahçe was dominating and like they had no luck basically,
Absolutely.
So like we've seen those games before.
20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex was when Alex was playing for them, like he would like pull the rabbit out of the hat in every single game and like just like get the win for them. But now like when you look at them right now, they don't have any like standout players.
There is no inspiration. Their goal, even despite the fact that they clearly, that we were not playing particularly well, their goal still felt like it came out of nowhere. That really dropped out of the sky.
Yeah, it was a person level. It was obvious. Like Caner should have just like tried to head the ball. They was just watching.
Yeah.
Ayew came in from the back and just like he didn't even challenge him. Like
passive. Yeah.
Yeah, and then headed it in. It was.
And I said this, and we tried to watch a few replays before recording this.
Yeah.
But we kept losing focus on the moment where we couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't tell who enabled Hassan Ali's cross into Andre Ayew. But
I believe it was Quaresma. But
I think you're right. I think it was Quaresma, and I don't know if it was a scenario where he should have been coming back and pressing and wasn't, or if it was really kind of an out of the blue, like kind of inspirational cross from Hassan Ali. But nonetheless, like we do. The recurring theme throughout the season defensively is that we're allowing these crosses to come in, and we're getting burned almost every game. Whether it's a 3-0 victory that we're letting them turning into 3-1, or it's we're winning 1-0 and then we let them draw, or in the case of like Antalya, we lose because of those kinds of opportunities.
And like Bursa Sport game as well.
And the Bursa where we let up the draw.
Where Pepe didn't follow the striker and like Karius was.
Maybe
off
caught out.
The goal. Yeah, it's becoming a problem to really like personal like errors by defenders this year. Like defense is shaking basically every game.
Yeah.
They need to tighten up and like perform better because
as a unit.
Yeah. The first years with Şenol Güneş where we've won the title, the defenders were always like, especially when Marcelo came in, he was leading the defensive line and like they were really good there. Like
I miss that dude.
Some games we won by our defending even.
In fact, Marcelo he didn't lead his team, but Marcelo and Lyon just came off on a big Champions League win this week, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
they've beaten Manchester City.
Man City,
yeah,
yeah.
that's insane. That's just
It just
incredible.
goes to show you the value of a guy like Marcelo,
Yeah,
maybe,
and
right?
he's doing really well at Lyon too. Like, but last year, if you look at it, our defense wasn't that bad.
No.
Even like we have the best defensive record in the league. But like our last year, our
2
problem
years
was
running.
with more like attacking. You know, like Negredo was disappointing, and James wasn't quite performing in the league. He did wonders in the Champions League, but
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
compared to that, it was a bit off in the league. And since then, we're having like problems on both ends, to be honest, and like we couldn't quite fix them. We're still doing some stuff like
Yeah.
it's not
And
too bad, but still like
Yeah.
we gotta
All in all,
fix it.
probably
Yeah.
mostly good, in fact. But these moments, these sort of moments of slipping that, kind of reminiscent of like the Tomasz Sivok era where we had these brain farts that would, like, you knew we were going to allow a goal somehow on some stupid shit.
Bottle
On the
jobs,
bleep
yeah.
there, but
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But all right, just to move it along, so we don't take up too much more time here. What's your highlight? Who's your man of the match for Beşiktaş?
For Beşiktaş, okay, so personally, I believe for me, like, man of the match would be Karius, but
Yeah.
for the general opinion and like to be more by the rules, shall we say, like
Sure, yeah.
we have to go with Babel because he scored a goal. But
Yeah,
like
and
for
it's
me,
stunner.
it's yeah,
Stunner of a goal.
a complete screamer, like banged it. But like for me, it's Karius because like he did some key saves.
4 or 5.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you look at it, most of our keepers would just hit it at Kadiko, like we've seen it in the past, Simply, like, he did really good, in my opinion. And Babel scored the goal, so he has to be mentioned as well. But that's it for me. I believe everyone else were, like, disappointing in their own way. Maybe a bit Tiba. He deserves a little bit credit as well, but like the others.
Yeah, I think that's, if you're going Babel and I'm going Karius, I mean, certainly Karius definitely stood out.
Yeah.
He made a number of saves, in particular, like there was a counter where Valbuena had a nice crack at goal, and he just
Jones save was brilliant.
and he held it, and actually that's what stood out about all of his saves was the poise that there was no opportunity for a rebound. Like, he was holding balls, his handling, in terms of FIFA skills, right? Like his handles.
That shows how confident he is right now, because like he did a blunder in Liverpool and he was looking shaky. It seemed like there was something wrong with his head, which is proving to be right now, because like he's making a fresh start here, and like
he's showing hunger to prove.
He's really driven, and like he's doing really good, in my opinion, so far. Like, he's been doing really good, and I seriously believe that he can keep this going.
Yeah, no, I it's hard to disagree. Well, let's leave it at that, because I think, to sum it all up, it's a 1-1 draw.
Probably a result we would have taken before the game. Like,
exactly. Knowing Firat Aydınus was the ref and that Palabayuk was in the VAR room, right? So yeah,
and
all
like
in
a
all,
great game, and like a week where Galatasaray like lost, like possibly at one point isn't that bad here if you like.
Yeah, we gained a point.
Bigger picture,
we gained a point. Yeah,
the league is a long run, so
and Başakşehir here.
Exactly. So it's not that bad. I mean, it's still early in the season, but like
we're still 2 points back, right? That's only 2 points, one match.
We need the wake up call right now.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta see our problems and try to solve them, because like Güneş is kind of. I'm not saying that like he's completely awful or anything, but he's being too stubborn. I don't know if he's trying to prove a point or anything, but like he has to be more broad. Like, he should start trying to like find something new, maybe, or like change some stuff to make it better. I don't know really, but
he's got that like Turkish Abi syndrome,
Yeah.
I think the hope that a lot of us have is that adding guys like Guti, Ilhan Mansur, that they might
should make you more
modernize yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, by all means. Well, all right, Aaron, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
plug yourself a little bit. Tell like where can people find you on Twitter? You have any good projects going on? I know you're working on all kinds of things. You know, the Liverpool. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just tell everyone what you're up to.
So yeah, my Twitter handle is Aaron E. Armstrong. You can find me on Twitter. I'm collaborating with. I'm an admin of a Beşiktaş news portal kind of thing on Twitter, like a news blog kind of thing, and also a couple of projects that I've been working on. Like there are a couple of other projects. I do stuff about Liverpool as well, and like write articles.
And you're doing updates about Karius for
yeah, that's so
another thing. Right? You have tons.
Exactly. Some like one of my friends run that account, so he always asks me about like, hey, how Karius did, because like the fans want to know. The Liverpool fans are curious about him, and you know, like I'll kind of give him a low summary of his performance, and then he posts it. Well, like basically, you can find me there. I'm mostly post stuff that is not serious on Twitter because like I try to have fun there, but like
banter. You're there for the banter.
I'm here for the little banter, you know. Yeah, that's basically it. And like, just mention me, hit me up.
Yeah.
Drop a follow.
By all means, yeah, definitely. And check out Beşiktash Talk, of course.
Yeah,
you know?
that too.
We're all, you know, the Beşiktash English-speaking community is
collaborating,
united, right?
Yeah.
So this is good stuff.
It's a brand new thing.
Yeah, man. But so great to have you, Aaron. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Excellent. Well, and so that's it for this episode of the Black Eagle podcast. Thank you so much to Emrah and to Aaron, both of our special guests, and of course for both Kaan and I think I can safely say for Kaan, thank you so much to you guys for listening. As always, thank you guys for tuning in, for spreading the word, sharing with your friends and anyone who might be inclined. The sensation that is the Black Eagles podcast. To be humble, of course. But so yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Check us out on Twitter. Follow us at Eagles_podcast. You know, you can get all of our personal info, my and Kaan's Twitter accounts and our guests as well in the description. And, you know, however it is that you're finding our podcast, be it iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, you know, we're everywhere now. We're global. But yeah, enjoy the upcoming episodes, guys. Remember, Kayserispor will be playing them on Saturday. We're going to be at home, supposedly. There are rumors that the fixtures might be switched because they're fixing the grass at the Vodafone Park. Nothing confirmed yet, so as scheduled, Beşiktaş is at home against Kayserispor. The game is to be played at noon here in New York City, Eastern Standard Time. That is 6 p.m. over in Kaan's Central European locale, and I think 7 p.m. in Istanbul. So, 7 p.m. match for those of you who might be attending. And yeah, let's go, guys. 3 points. This could be a good way to pick up 3 points and gain some steam against somewhat weaker opposition, in light of the fact that we're going to be, of course, returning to Europe next week with Malmö, and we've got Konya in the Super League in our next match day as well, who should be tough opposition. They've just defeated Fener last week, I think it was. So stay tuned, guys. Saturday, Kayserispor, 7 p.m. Istanbul, noon here on the East Coast of the United States. And as always, thanks again. And of course, go Beşiktaş.
Şimdi Bobo'nun önüne. Bobo aldı. Bobo girdi. Bobo çok babasın. Çok harikasın. Çok güzelsin. Harika. Bobo. 2-0.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.